The wind reached her before the men did. It slid through the broken boards of the shack like a warning whispered too late, lifting dust from the floor and pressing cold fingers against her ankles. The lantern hanging from a bent nail trembled, casting shadows that jumped and twisted along the walls. Outside, hooves crushed dry earth. Slow, heavy, certain. Eliza May Carter stood near the doorway, barefoot on dirt hardened by years of sorrow. Her fingers were clenched so tightly her nails pierced her skin. She didn't loosen them. Pain was honest. Pain reminded her she was still here. That a cough rattled behind her. Her father lay on a narrow cot, his body little more than bones wrapped in skin. The war had taken his leg. Fever was taking the rest. His eyes fluttered open, cloudy with fear, and for a moment he looked like the man he used to be. Strong hands, steady voice, laughter that once filled open fields. "Liza," he tried to say. She shook her head gently, stepping closer, placing her palm against his chest to quiet him. If he spoke, if he begged, the men would hear weakness. Weakness always costs more. The door creaked open without a knock. Three men entered, carrying the outside world with them. Dust, sweat, and judgment. One wore a clean coat and held a leather ledger under his arm. One had a rifle slung over his shoulder, eyes already bored. The third stood like he owned the room, boots planted wide, gaze sharp and measuring. The man with the ledger glanced around, lips tightening at the sight of poverty. His eyes passed over Eliza's face without stopping, settling instead on her posture, her hands, her age. He flipped a page. Numbers mattered more than names out here. Her father tried to rise. Failed. Eliza straightened. "We don't have it," she said before they could speak. Her voice surprised even her, steady, low, unbroken. The ledger man sighed, as if inconvenienced by tragedy. He spoke of debts, of interest, of time already given. His words blended together, hollow and rehearsed. Eliza barely listened. She already knew how this ended. The man in charge finally looked at her properly. His gaze lingered, not cruel, just cold. Calculating. "She'll do," he said. $4. That was all it took. No ceremony followed. No pause for mercy. Ink scratched paper. A thumb pressed down hard enough to bruise. Eliza felt a hand close around her arm. Not tight enough to hurt, not loose enough to escape. She did not look at her father as they turned away. She could feel his eyes on her back, burning with shame and helpless love. If she turned, she might break. And broken things did not survive long on the frontier. Outside, the sun hovered low, a red smear across the endless sky. The land stretched out in all directions, dry grass bending under the wind, fences leaning, distant hills like silent witnesses. Somewhere far away, life went on as if this moment did not matter. They told her she would be married by nightfall. Not to any of them, Tio, a cowboy. They said his name like a warning passed between men who knew better than to say more. Caleb Rourke, that a widower. A rancher. A man who lived far from town and farther from questions. He had paid the debt in full. For dollars. No bargaining. Eliza was given an hour. She gathered what little she owned. A thin shawl her mother once stitched from scraps. A tin locket with no picture inside. Lost to fire years ago. A sewing needle worn smooth from use. She slipped them into a small cloth bundle and tied it shut. Before leaving, she stood at the foot of her father's cot. He slept now, breath shallow but peaceful. She brushed a strand of gray hair from his forehead and leaned down, pressing her lips to his skin. "I'll live," she whispered. "I promise." Whether there was comfort or defiance, she didn't know. The wagon waited as it rolled away. The shack shrank behind her, swallowed by dust and distance. Eliza kept her eyes forward, jaw set, spine straight. The men rode beside the wagon in silence. There was nothing left to say. The plains opened wide. Wind tore at her dress. The smell of dry earth filled her lungs. The horizon seemed too big, too empty, like a challenge meant to break smaller hearts. She thought of her mother, how she used to say that storms didn't always come to destroy. Sometimes they came to clear the way. Eliza had never known whether to believe that. Hours passed. The sun sank lower. The world turned gold, then copper, then shadow. When the wagon finally stopped, it was not at a town or a church, but the edge of nowhere. A stretch of land broken only by a small corral and a lone figure waiting beside a horse. Caleb Rourke did not smile. He stood tall, hat pulled low, shoulders broad beneath a dust-worn coat. His face was carved by weather and time, a pale scar cutting along his jaw. His eyes were dark, watchful, unreadable that he looked at the men first. Then at Eliza, not like an owner, like a man standing at the edge of something he did not fully understand. The ledger was handed over. Coins change hands. The men mounted their horses and rode off without looking back, swallowed by the fading light. Silence settled in their wake. Eliza stood still, her bundle clutched to her chest. The wind played with loose strands of her hair. She waited, for an order, for a command, for something that would confirm what she feared. Caleb said nothing that he walked past her to the wagon, checked the broken strap, then turned back. Slowly, he removed his hat. A small gesture, respectful, unexpected. "You can come inside," he said quietly, nodding toward the distant cabin. "Or you can sit. Your choice." Choice. The word hit her harder than any blow. She followed him, heart pounding, every sense sharp and alert. The cabin was simple but clean. A table, 2 chairs, a fireplace already laid for a fire. No locks on the door. Caleb set her bundle down gently, as if it mattered. Outside, the wind howled across the plains, carrying dust, carrying stories, carrying the echo of everything she had lost. Eliza stood in the doorway and looked back at the open land one last time. She did not know yet that this marriage, bought for $4, would not become her cage. She only knew that somewhere deep inside her chest, beneath fear and grief and exhaustion, something stubborn refused to die. And as the night closed in, that quiet ember waited for wind. The storm arrived before dawn. Not with rain at first, but with wind, hard, restless wind that pressed against the hides of the tents and pulled sparks from dying fires. It carried the smell of dust and something sharper beneath it, something that made men lift their heads in the dark and listen. Elias woke before anyone touched him. Years of sleeping with one eye open had trained his body better than thought ever could. He sat up slowly, the borrowed blanket slipping from his shoulders, and scanned the edge of the camp. Shapes moved beyond the firelight. Guards. Quiet. Alert. The young guide who had led him in the night before crouched nearby, feeding sticks into the embers. She could not have been more than 17. Her hair was braided tight, her face calm in a way that spoke of learning fear early and mastering it faster. "You hear it too," she said, not looking at him. Elias nodded. Far off, beyond the hills, came a sound almost lost to the wind. Hoofs. Not many yet, but enough. The past had found him. The camp did not panic. That was what struck him most. No shouting, no scrambling, just motion, measured and deliberate. Fires were dimmed. Children were guided deeper into the shelter of wagons and rock. Warriors moved to the edges like shadows slipping into place. The elder appeared beside Elias without sound. "They are close," the old man said. "Yes," Elias answered. "They won't stop." The elder studied him, searching not for fear, but for truth. "You said you would leave if danger followed you." Elias looked toward the dark hills. He imagined the men riding there, faces hard, eyes narrowed by years of taking without asking. Bounty hunters, former soldiers, men who needed someone else to be the villain so they could sleep at night. "If I leave now," Elias said, "they'll follow. They always do." The elder nodded once. "Then stay." The word carried weight. Permission, judgment, consequence. The first gunshot came just as the sky began to pale. The IT cracked through the valley like a snap bone. The horses screamed. 1,000 bodies surged, hooves pounding, breath exploding into the cold air. Handlers rushed to calm them, voices low and steady, hands firm. Panic was a fire that spread fast if left unchecked. More shots followed, warning shots Elias knew. The hunters announcing themselves. Claiming the land with noise, Elias stood. "They're after me," he said. "They think I stole horses from a military contractor. I didn't. I exposed him. He lost money. Men like that don't forgive. Men like that fear what they can't control," the elder replied. The riders crested the ridge soon after. 5 of them, silhouetted against the rising light. Rifles visible. Confidence obvious. Point one rode forward alone, that he was broad-shouldered, his coat lined with fur taken from someone else's kill. His smile was easy, practiced. "Morning," he called. Didn't mean to disturb the camp. No one answered. His eyes landed on Elias. "There you are," he said, as if greeting an old friend. "You owe some powerful folks an explanation." Elias stepped forward before anyone else could. "I'm done running," he said. The rider laughed softly. "You always say that." A tense moment stretched. Wind pulled at clothing. A hawk circled high above, patient. The young guide appeared beside Elias. She held no weapon, just a bundle wrapped in cloth. She placed it in his hands without a word. Inside was a small wooden carving. A horse, crudely shaped but unmistakable. Its legs were uneven. Its head bowed slightly, as if tired but standing. "A child made it," she said quietly. "For you." He said, "You gave them hope." Elias's throat tightened. The rider watched the exchange, his smile thinning. "Touching," he said, "but hope doesn't cancel debts." The first arrow flew without warning. That IT struck the dirt inches from the rider's horse. A message, not a miss. Everything froze. The elder stepped forward now, his voice carrying across the space between camps. "You do not bring death into our home." The rider's eyes flicked to the surrounding rocks, to the shadows where warriors waited unseen. He measured the cost. Men like him were good at that. "This man is ours for the night," the elder continued. "Your quarrel waits for the sun." The rider spat into the dirt. "You protect thieves now." "We protect life," the elder said, "even when it is broken." The standoff lasted seconds longer than comfort allowed. Then thunder rolled in from the west. Real thunder this time. The storm broke open like a wound. Rain fell hard and sudden, turning dust to mud, sound to chaos. Lightning split the sky, white and violent. The riders cursed and pulled back, retreating to higher ground. But Elias knew it wasn't over. The storm gave cover. To everyone, by nightfall, the rain eased, leaving the valley slick and heavy with the smell of wet earth. Fires were relit. Guards doubled. Elias sat with the elder beneath a stretched hide, the carved horse resting between his palms. "You were ready to die this morning," the elder said. "Yes." "And now?" Elias looked at the camp, at the children asleep despite fear, at the horses calming under patient hands, at the quiet strength holding everything together. "Now," he said, "I want to live long enough to deserve this night." The elder's eyes softened. "Then when dawn comes," he said, "you will face a choice." "What choice?" "Whether your bargain ends with horses," the elder replied, "or with something more difficult to give." In the darkness beyond the camp, a rifle was reloaded. The storm had passed, the reckoning had not. Dawn came quietly, as if it feared what it might wake. The rain had washed the valley clean, leaving the earth dark and heavy, the air sharp with the scent of wet stone and sage. Mist clung low to the ground, drifting between tents and horses like something alive, something waiting. Elias stood at the edge of the camp, the carved wooden horse still in his hand. He had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the ridge, the riders, the easy smile of a man who believed the world owed him obedience. The elder joined him without sound. "The night is almost gone," the old man said. Elias nodded. "I know." Around them, the camp stirred. Fires were fed. Packs were tightened. The people moved with the calm of those who had learned that fear wasted energy better spent on survival. From the far side of the valley came the sound Elias had been dreading. Hooves. Not rushed. Not cautious. Certain. The hunters were coming. Elias tightened his grip on the carving. "This is where I leave," he said. It was the deal. The elder looked at him for a long moment. "You could," he said, "and they would follow. They would take you. Then they would take what remains." Elias turned. "I won't let that happen." "Words," the elder replied gently. "What will you do?" Elias breathed in slowly. The air burned his lungs, grounding him in the moment. He thought of his ranch, of the cottonwood tree, of promises whispered to the dead. He thought of the 1,000 horses standing restless beyond the camp. Power he could give, power he could lose. I'll go to them, he said. Alone. The elder's eyes narrowed. And if they kill you, then at least it ends here. The elder shook his head. Ending is not the same as choosing. Before Elias could respond, the young guide stepped forward. She had a rifle now, old but cared for. Her hands were steady. They won't listen, she said. Men like that don't come for justice. They come to be right. Elias met her gaze. Then I'll give them something else to be. The elder turned to the camp. A signal passed without words. Warriors moved, not toward the riders, but toward the horses. Elias felt a flicker of panic. No, he said. They're yours. All of them. Yes, the elder said. And life is ours too. The riders appeared through the thinning mist. 7 now. Reinforced. Confident. They spread out, rifles visible, horses snorting at the unfamiliar scent of the camp. The leader rode forward again. His smile returned like a familiar disease. Morning, he said. I see you slept well. Elias stepped out alone, hands empty, palms open. It ends today, Elias said. The rider laughed. It does, he agreed. For you. Elias nodded once. I'll come with you. No trouble. No chasse. The rider tilted his head. And the horses? They're not part of this. The rider's eyes flicked past Elias, catching sight of the massive herd. His smile widened. Everything's part of this. That was when the first horse was released, not driven, not chased. Released at a gate opened, and the animals surged forward, not toward the riders, but across the valley, hooves pounding like thunder rolling sideways. Dust and mist exploded into motion, swallowing sight and sound. The rider shouted. Horses reared. Control fractured. Elias moved. He ran, not away, but straight toward the leader. A rifle cracked. Dirt kicked up at his feet. Another shot. Too high. Elias tackled the rider from the saddle. They hit the ground hard, breath bursting from lungs, mud soaking through clothes. The world narrowed to sound and weight and pain. They rolled. Fists flew. The rider was stronger. Elias was angrier. A gun went off somewhere close. A horse screamed. Elias felt a blow to his ribs, sharp and hot. He tasted blood. Still, he pushed forward, driving the man back, fingers locking into the fur collar, dragging him down into the mud. You think you own everything you touch, Elias rasped. You don't. The rider spat blood and laughed. This land belongs to whoever takes it. A shadow fell over them. The elder stood there, rifle raised, eyes steady. This land belongs to those who protect it, he said. The rider froze. Around them, the chaos settled. Not into silence, but into control. The Apache warriors had not slaughtered. They had disarmed, surrounded, contained. The herd thundered away into the distance, scattering like a living storm, impossible to reclaim. The rider looked around, realization finally breaking through arrogance. You'll regret this, he said. The elder lowered the rifle slightly. We already know regret, he said. You came to teach us fear. You failed. The riders were allowed to leave on foot. That be by the time the sun fully cleared the horizon. The valley was quiet again. Elias sat on a rock near the edge of the camp, bandages tight around his ribs, exhaustion settling into his bones like winter. The carved horse rested beside him. The elder approached one last time. The night is over, the old man said. Elias nodded. The bargain stands. Yes, the elder replied. You gave the horses. Elias looked toward the empty plain where the herd had disappeared. 1,000 lives running free. A future scattered but alive. And, Elias asked softly, and you gave something harder, the elder said. Your need to survive at any cost. Elias felt something loosen inside him. Not relief. Something deeper. Purpose. The young guide approached, holding a small pouch. Inside were seeds. Corn. Beans. For the road, she said. Elias stood slowly, pain reminding him he was still alive. Where will you go? She asked. He looked east, where the land rolled on endlessly. Somewhere the ground hasn't learned my name yet. She nodded, understanding more than words could carry. Elias walked away from the camp. The sun climbed higher, warming the wet earth, pulling steam from the ground. Behind him, life continued. Ahead of him, uncertainty waited, but he walked lighter than he had in years. Not forgiven, not saved, changed. And if this story reached you, if you've ever stood at the edge of choice where everything you own felt smaller than what you had to give, remember this. Sometimes the most unthinkable bargain isn't what we lose, it's what we finally choose to leave behind.